This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 377 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products and Total Saddle Fit and EcoVet. Tonight we're going to wrap up the Olympic discussion with Kathy Conley and Max Cochran from the Eventing Show. Janet Floy will lead us through the Grand Prix in the Total Saddle Fit Tip of the Week.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Walkwood, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show. And we've got Glenn with us producing the show for us today.
Hey, guys, it's been a while.
I know.
Entertaining you with our dressage, right?
Yes. And I got to tell you, before we get started into all the great Olympic coverage, I wanted to apologize to all the listeners for last week when many of you couldn't listen to the shows because you were having trouble downloading the files and getting to the website and listening on the app and stuff. What happened was that basically we killed the server.
You guys crashed the show. So you guys crashed the server.
Awesome.
Yeah, I called the server
Kind
company, and the first thing he said to me is, "Whoa, you're popular." And then he said, "You realize you have delivered almost 1.5 terabytes of data last month, which is incredibly large." He said, "I haven't seen that in 3 months." So he said, your server should have died about 1 year ago, and you've been working on borrowed time here. So we had to upgrade to larger servers, and it's thanks to you guys, the listeners. So thank you for listening, and you've helped us break the internet again. So
Nice.
yeah,
You broke the internet. I love it.
we broke the internet last year during Radiothon, thanks to Bob Baffert, and now we broke it again. So it's it should be speedy now. Unfortunately, we're down for 2 days. Right when your show came out, we were down for 2 days, and there was nothing we could do. They had to it took them 6.5 hours with their super fast connections to transfer all the data to the new server.
Wow.
That's how
so cool.
big our website is with 4,900 sound files. So we're all good now. It's speedy, it's zippy, and it should be good until we break it again.
Nice. We're looking forward to that for sure. Love it.
So thank you, everybody, for helping us do that, and we apologize for your delays last week.
Yeah. Well, we have a really big show tonight, don't we, Phil?
Yeah, I think we might just get right to it. I mean, we've
I
got
think we should.
interviews from people
that
that were in Rio, and interviews that people who had a hand in selecting the dressage team, the American team that did so well. Got yourselves a bronze medal this time.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yay. Very cool. Well, excellent. Well, right after this commercial break, we're going to come back with the co-host of the Eventing Radio Show, Max Cochran, and she's going to talk about her experience in Rio as a groom for the Puerto Rican team.
He was her first love, the one that started it all. He taught her how to master the posting trot and navigate her first hunter course. They spent hours together exploring the trails and hanging out in the barn. His name was doodled on every page in her school notebook. His coat gleamed in the sun as he met her at the gate each day, snuffling for a treat. From the first time she saw him poking his head out of the stall to the last time she patted him goodbye, he was, and always will be, her everything. This love story is brought to you by Nalox Advanced, providing complete support for a healthy digestive tract, which reduces the risk of colic and digestive upset. The horse that matters to you matters to Kentucky Performance Products. Call 859-873-2974 or visit kppusa.com to order today.
We are so excited to have the co-host of the Eventing Radio Show, Max Corcoran, on. Max, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's kind of fun to be on the other end.
I know.
You can join us. We're not really stuffy and stuff.
I know.
People
I
say
know. I
it's
will say
there.
it was so much. Getting to know the dressage grooms in Rio was so much fun. They were such a fun group. We had such a good time with them. They were so much fun.
Oh.
That's what we've heard. That's the word on the street. Was just
Oh God, they were great.
the dressage grooms and the riders, everybody seemed like they worked together and they had a
Oh,
great
it's wonderful.
time.
Yeah,
So,
they had and that Eddie, I love him. He's
oh,
hysterical.
he's great. He's
He's
Steffen's
my
groom.
favorite. Oh God, he's
He is.
hysterical.
He
Too
is. He's
funny.
been around. He's been around a
Yes,
little bit,
yeah,
Eddie. He's been
he's
all over the
great.
world.
Yep.
So, Max, I mean, start us off. What was the venue like? What were you doing there? Like, tell us the whole thing.
Well, I had actually lucky enough I got to go to Rio in 2007 for the Pan American Games, so I was a little bit knowing what to expect from there, except for the fact that in 2007 when I lived there, when we went down for the Pan American Games, the grooms lived in shipping containers, which
Oh,
was which was really
Oh,
attractive.
with
So
no
that was
windows.
no
no
windows?
windows. We sort of had bunk beds, no
Oh,
bathrooms, no
oh,
no warm water.
wow.
So it was definitely trying, and it was interesting.
Mm.
The only warm water really on the venue was in the horses' wash racks, which got disinfected every day at about 4:30. So we ended up showering in the horses' wash racks every day,
Yeah,
which
you
was
did.
always
Oh,
Yep.
yeah,
that's
we did.
okay.
The
Wow.
American and the Canadian teams, we sort of put a shower curtain up across
Yep.
the back quarter, and we made our own bath. We made our own little shower there. It was fantastic. So
Oh my
I was
God.
very pleasantly surprised, and I was lucky enough to go and travel with Lauren Billies, who was representing Puerto Rico for eventing. And she is a fantastic horse, and she's awesome. She is great, and I had a wonderful time working with her and for her over the week. And she's got a great horse named Castle Larch. Wait, I'm gonna get this wrong. Castle Sportsfield. Oh, I get it wrong. I call him Purdy.
Purdy.
He's
Purdy.
I like it.
fantastic.
Purdy.
Yes, Castlefield Larch Purdy. That's it. It's a big long name, but he's a
What
wonderful
is a long name?
creature. And I got to Derek DeGrazia and B DeGrazia, her coaches, and Emily Sander. She was our vet, and so we had such a great time. We were sort of our own little entity because she was the only equestrian from Puerto Rico there competing in any discipline. So we were our own little spot there. So we had a great time,
Aw.
and
Oh,
it
cool.
was wonderful. But I got to live with the American eventing grooms, who are all really good friends of mine. So it was great, and the venue was fantastic. The horses had big, beautiful stalls. It was great. Wash racks and nice. I mean, unfortunately, the sand was a bit deep where we had to walk through. But I mean, if you had to pick apart on it, I mean, really, those are minor details. So
Yeah.
it was great, and it was really well organized, and it was clean, and it was safe, and it was you had everything you needed. So it was really quite good.
So, we did hear that there were some bullets that
Oh
flew. I mean,
yes.
I know it was they flew in the press tent, and since Phil and I are technically members of the press, and so are you,
Yeah, exactly,
that
exactly.
makes me slightly nervous. I know a lot of people want to take out the press, but we are a friendly network, so
Right. I think
what
what
happened?
actually happened was that it was a stray bullet that basically, because we were on a military base, there
Oh.
wasn't anybody aiming for it. Basically, it sort of fell into the press tent. It was just, and it sounds a lot worse than it was. It just sort of someone was sitting there typing away, and they're like, "Oh, this bullet just fell here, huh?" So it was just one of those random things, and I don't think it was clearly nobody was aiming at somebody. It just sort of fell. It was odd, yes, but we were in Rio, and it is on a military base, so I don't know. It
You
didn't seem
felt
that bad.
okay. You
Stuff
felt
happens.
relatively
Yeah,
safe.
exactly.
Okay, so you felt safe, and so
Yeah.
were the athletes staying? Where were you in comparison to like where the athletes stayed and all that stuff?
The grooms had a really great. They had a grooms sort of village. They had 3 apartment buildings, about a 7-minute walk to the barns, which
Nice.
was great. And we had a really nice. They were 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom apartments with
Cool.
living rooms and Wi-Fi and TVs. And I mean, we did well.
Yeah.
And so we were there, and I would say the majority of the athletes were at the athlete village, which was apparently a bit the same. And I know the American riders had a great time, and my rider had a great time staying there because they got to meet and see all the other athletes of all the different disciplines and countries and such. So they had a bus that took them, went every half hour, so they could hop the bus to whenever they wanted to get there or leave. And
Nice.
they were, on the Olympic lane. They had a lane that was just designated for Olympic vehicles, and so it all worked out really quite well. It was,
Really?
fairly well organized and stuff like that. So nobody seemed to mind it.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
good
Did you
because
get
I
a
mean that
chance
was
to? Sorry, I was just going to ask. Did you get a chance to get off the base at all and into the city, or what was your Rio experience like?
Well, I actually didn't because there was a couple of trips that went to the, as we call it, the Big Jesus and
yeah.
Yeah.
to Sugarloaf, but I had done that in 2007, so it was sort of the timing was a little bit funny, and I was like, I'm all right, I'll stay here. I didn't actually really mind just sticking around, but I know a lot of the other grooms and a lot of the riders went and had went out and did sort of fun touristy things, but even at night there was a really neat pub just around we call it a pub, sort of around the corner from where we went, and a lot of the grooms would sort of meet the vets and the farriers and such from that were part of the Olympic committee. Would sort of It was from our grooms village, it was maybe a 5-minute walk. And these
Oh,
people were great, and they would have karaoke, and we'd have some caporeiras, and it was great to get
mhm.
off the venue a couple of times. But it was, yeah, we had fun. But it was, again, you always felt safe. It was fine. You just were smart. You didn't wear your Olympic clothing outside the venue. You didn't, you just have to be smart. It's a city. It's a third world country. It's a city, so you just have to be smart when you left. Just had to
Yeah.
be just a heads up. That's all.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that's good. I mean, that's great to hear.
yeah.
And how was the cross country course? I know there was some talk that it was
Oof.
wicked hard.
It
So
was
tell us
it
a
was
little bit
really
about that.
hard. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, typically, I was lucky enough, Derek DeGrazia, who is the course designer for Rolex, and he is the course designer for the next World Championships and next Olympic Games, and he was my rider's coach. So for me, I got to a little bit pick his brain about what he thought and stuff like that, and his thoughts on it. The course itself was probably the stiffest Olympic course they've seen in a long, long time. Actually, here's poor Lauren Billies, who's done 2 3 stars in her entire life, is there and
Oh.
doing the course, and she's there, and like, she's earned her place and she deserves to be there. And Mark Todd, who has been around forever, he's what is he? This is his 8th Olympic Games, right? And he's won gold medals and this and that. And he walks right up to Derek and says, "Geez, that's like the hardest Olympic course I've seen in decades," right in front of Lauren. And
Oh.
Lauren, God.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Oh.
I know. So it was very tough. And I thought, personally, I thought it was a bit unfair to some of the horses. I think horses got a bit punished for being brave. And horses got very tired at the end, which you hate to see. It's not meant to. I think Derek's such a brilliant course designer because if he catches someone not concentrating or being on a line, the horses run out. Where this caused a lot of horses to fall down,
Yeah.
and you hate seeing that, and you need to reward their bravery and reward their accuracy instead of punishing it. So it was tough. It was a very difficult course. It was a lot tougher than people were expecting, especially at the Olympic Games. There are some countries that are
Yeah.
we call, they don't want to say it's lesser countries, but countries that maybe aren't England and Ireland and America and Great Britain and Germany. And so you've got, Chile and Puerto Rico and some of these other countries, which ironically they did fantastic. So, and so it was tough, but they needed, I think they should have made it a bit kinder, especially eventing is struggling to stay in the Olympics as it is
Yes.
anyway.
Yeah.
And to have the cross country, you showing horses falling down and stuff like that, it's just going to make it harder to keep it
Mhm.
in the sport. It's another reason to take it out, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
yeah, the cross country was definitely difficult. I will say the horses, for the most part, all looked pretty good. They did a great job with the footing. The course building was beautiful. They did a beautiful job with the course building, the decorations, all that was gorgeous. But it was just maybe a bit. I mean, it was more of a 4 star than a 3 star, and technically, the Olympics are known to be a 3 star. So
Ah.
it was tough. It was definitely
Yeah.
tough. Yeah,
Yeah.
but everybody. The nice thing is that nobody got hurt. All the no horses got really injured. Everybody's going to be fine. So that's actually the really good thing.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, oh my gosh, it sounds great. I mean, any other thoughts you had from the whole, did you get to see any other events or did you come right on home?
Well, we went. We did get to see. Unfortunately, the eventing was first, and so the dressage was starting just the day after we left. So we got to watch the 2 days of the first round of the dressage team. We only got to watch the obviously it's 2 days, but the first round, I guess it was, of the dressage, and that's all we got to see. But on the one night, what was it? The night before we left, we went and saw the rugby sevens, which was really fun because it was just across the street from us, and that was really amazing to go see. And unfortunately, because our discipline started, our trot up was on the day of opening ceremonies, and then we went sort of straight through. So we were full on busy until almost, right before. Then we leave right after. So we were there early before, so nothing was really going on. So we didn't get to see a ton, but at least we got to see some of it, which was really cool. It was good.
Did you meet any famous athletes, other athletes at all?
No, I didn't. No, it was except for, all the brilliant American equestrians.
Exactly.
I got to meet all the equestrian heroes of so that was actually pretty cool. But I didn't get to meet anybody outside the discipline. So unfortunately, but it was it's amazing to be a part of it, and it's amazing to be there, and it's you feel honored. And it was funny. I landed back in Miami, and then I flew to Boston to come up to see my family. And I'm at the Boston airport, and I'm looking around, I'm like, do you people know where I've been? Like, you're just carrying on with your day. I've been to the Olympics, to sort of tell everybody. It was so embarrassing. But I said to text my friend Joni Morris, who's the director of eventing. I said, do you ever get this feeling? She's like, all the time. So it was, you're just honored to be a part of it. And it's really cool. It's something we all sort of aim for, and it's just great to be a part of it.
Wow, it's really cool. And thanks so much. You were on vacation and you came on the show. Thank you so much. But
no problem.
It was really cool to hear about your experience, and it
Thank you.
just makes me want to be in Tokyo.
Yay! I know. 4 more years.
4 more years. I love it. Well, Max, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
We look forward to seeing you soon.
Excellent. You guys take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if your horse could enjoy a zone of repellency from pesky flies? Well, he can with EcoVet. EcoVet is an entirely new type of fly repellent that is safe for horses and those applying it, offering a real alternative to toxic pesticides like pyrethrins. EcoVet confuses an insect's normal directional ability, the bug's GPS, if you will. So if it can't locate your horse, it can't bite your horse. Dr. Wendy Ying from the Driving Radio Show has been using it in South Florida, also known as the Jurassic Park of biting insects, and she just loves it. EcoVet's active ingredients are naturally occurring food-grade fatty acids that have been clinically shown to improve the condition of horses with difficult-to-treat sweet itch problems. EcoVet is effective on mosquitoes, ticks, no-see-ums, as well as flies. You can visit EcoVet online at eco-vet.com for more information or to order. You can find EcoVet at Dover Saddlery stores and EcoVet's on Facebook. Just search EcoVet, ECOVET.
Well, our next guest is Kathy Connolly, and this is really fun. She came on, it was, I think, our first summer, Phil. We were doing the show. She came on. She was one of our first guests to talk about the Olympics 4 years ago. So it's super fun to have her back to talk about what it was like to be a selector for the Olympic team. And she's going to run through some of the things that happened in Rio.
Well, tonight we are so excited to have Kathy Connolly back. She was came on 4 years ago for our Olympic wrap up, and she's back. And now she is the vice chair of the High Performance Dressage Committee. She was the chair of the Olympic selectors for our U.S. Olympic team, and she is an S judge and an FEI rider and competitor. Kathy, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Reese, and it's nice to be here with you and Phil and Glenn, and I want to thank you all for inviting me to be on your show. I've heard many accolades from so many riders who love to listen to your broadcast.
Well, we're still on
Oh,
4
that's
years. Yeah, I know. We're still on 4 years ago. That's pretty good. We
That's
made it another
great.
Olympic cycle, so that's a good thing. So we enjoy, and we're so glad you're back with us because wow, I mean I don't know about anybody else, but I still have a smile on my face from how well the Americans did in the dressage at the Olympic Games. So. We were so excited to have you back on, kind of talk about the process and what we're doing, and it's obviously working. So, start us off. How did it work this year?
Okay. Well, it's just obviously, as we all know, the United States dressage team made an enormous splash internationally, not just at the Olympics, but leading up to it. And as a member of the High Performance Committee and then also the chair of the selectors, we had a process where we made a strategy. Instead of having our selection trials be here in the United States, we wanted to go to Europe and do it there because we wanted the Europeans and the judges to see us there and have pre-Olympic experience with us in that way. So what we did was we chose 3 shows, Compiègne in France, Roosendaal in Germany, and Rotterdam in the Netherlands to be our finals. And our team did extraordinarily well at each one of those shows. It was really very exciting. And I was in Rotterdam because that was the absolute finals of it. So I covered that show as a selector. George Williams went to Compiègne and Roosendaal, the beginning ones. And we sent over 7 riders and 9 horses. And so, of course, it was Laura Graves and Verdades, and Casey Perry Glass and Doublet, Stefan with Legolas, 92, Ali Brock with Roosevelt. And then Shelley Francis brought over 2, Doctor and Danilo. And then Toonie Page and Woodstock and Gunter Seidel with Zero Gravity. And in Rotterdam, I'm going to go ahead to that part because I was fortunate to go over there before Rotterdam, and I went to our U.S. team headquarters, which is in Belgium. It's a wonderful farm that has been loaned to us by very good friends of Robert Dover's. And Robert Dover is just an amazing chef to keep. He's outstandingly optimistic and encouraging person. He always has been. We've known each other since we were teenagers. I'm a little bit older than he is, but he has a brilliant mind for strategy. And over the years, he has contributed so significantly to our plans and strategies to get back to the podium. Robert and the Belgian headquarters watched all of the riders go. And then also he helped Stefan, in particular Gunter and Shelley Francis. Debbie McDonald was helping Laura Graves and Casey Perry Glass, and Michael Barrison was helping Ali Brock with Roosevelt, the stallion that belongs to the Kundrins. And then Toonie Page met us in Rotterdam, Arndt from Germany. The training time was so fantastic. The team just bonded together very naturally. It was very admirable to see that because very often in these circumstances it can be very competitive and has been in the past. Like that this time. The support of all the riders for each other was amazing and very inspirational. There was no feeling of a competitive atmosphere with each other at all. It was all about the team, the team, the team. And it remained that. And I must say that we know, I mean, Americans love their horses, but I was for 10 days with all of these horses and riders in Belgium and then at Rotterdam. And the horses were just treated beautifully with no compromise or stress, even though it's leading up to an Olympics. So that was all a really great experience just to start off. And what we had done with the selection process was we, of course, don't really select the team. They select themselves by how they score, just like with all the other teams. But we all know that other aspects can come into this. So we are there in case an unusual circumstance comes up and a decision has to be made at the end about who's actually going to be on the team. But it really came out the way that it did in the scoring. It was, as you know, it was an absolutely nail-biting Olympics for the dressage. There were so many extraordinary riders and horses, and I think a very significant aspect of this Olympics, and we have Stephen Clark as chair of the FEI dressage, and we're so blessed with that man. He's done so much good for the sport and for all nations. And he said that at this Olympics, he said, we judges are going to reward lightness in the horses and lightness in the self-carriage and lightness in the way of going. We had a very experienced group of top judges there. There were 7 judges. We know we used to have 5, but now we have 7. So it was Clark, Holler, Arup, Rockwell, Alonso, Lang, and DeWolf. And they worked hard. I mean, as everyone says, the rider only has to ride one horse, but the judges have to ride every one. It's huge pressure to be judging a competition like this because they so badly want to be fair. And of course, they're very experienced. I thought some interesting statistics at this Olympics were that the dressage Olympians, as an average, were 38 years old. And of course, there's a number of veterans out there, quite a few of them, very successfully competing and above that age, such as Stefan Peters, who's 52, and Isabel Verret, who's 47. And going on to the Olympics, we all know that leading up to the Olympics, the Germans really stormed Aachen and were first, second, and third place there. But I have to say also, when we were at Rotterdam, the Europeans were really taken aback at watching the American team in both the 3-star and the 5-star just ride, and be winning and winning. Stefan won first place in both the 3 stars with Rosamund. And then, of course, all of our riders competed very well in the 5-star. So Europeans were buzzing about that over there, and it was a very good lead up to the Olympics. So it was a great strategy to be doing our trials over there and not hiding over here and just going over there to see what they thought about us when they hadn't really seen us. We know that the Germans won the gold, and the Germans were just absolutely had a meteoric determination to excel at this Olympics and get their gold medal back after London, where the Brits won it in 2012. And Isabel Verret came in and she said right away, we want our gold back. And they got it back. And in the Rio Olympics, they're world-class horses ridden in top classical form by these German riders. And, of course, Isabel was the captain, and there was Dorothy Schneider on Showtime, Christina Sprea-Breuring on Desperado, and Cinca Rosenberger on Cosmos. And it was very interesting. Actually, I'm going to talk about the freestyle later, but if you watch the NBC on USA final freestyle, and Randy Moss said after Laura Graves just wrote a heroic, incredible freestyle, he said, well, the good news is Laura wrote an amazing freestyle. He said the bad news is Isabel Verret is next. And of course, we know her experience, which I'll go on about a little bit later. But so Great Britain produced some outstanding rides. They are such an experienced and talented team, and they really helped and held their own with the Germans breathing down their necks, and the Americans really trying to take the silver medal from them. And we know their team, Charlotte and Vallegro, Carl and Niptuck, Fiona Bigwood, who did a lovely job with Orthilia, and Spencer Wilton on Supernova. And then our bronze team for a 12-year hiatus. Yep, yay. Was the United States, who just made an outstanding impression at Rio with one fabulous ride after another, riding under so much pressure to overtake the British for the silver and to stay ahead of the Netherlands and keep the bronze. And they achieved it. And again, we know who our team was. All of the riders rode admirably, just so admirably under such great pressure. But Laura Graves rode heroically to hold our team
she
up
is a movie.
for the bronze.
She is a movie.
Yes.
Like, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel the Hallmark moment. Like, I was great. I think we were all jumping up and down. We had a watch party here, and we were literally jumping up and down. She was that great. It was great.
She was extraordinary.
Yep.
And they have such a great partnership, she and her horse. As we know, she got her horse as a foal. And I know Laura quite well. She's at Haven Safe Farm in Wellington, where I also train. And so I got to watch a lot of her training, her other horses too. But the partnership between those two is amazing. And just like with Vallegro, who's a very sensitive horse and has an astounding relationship with Charlotte, Laura has that with Diddy. That's his nickname. And she just went right in there and got her 80 plus in the special and then her 80 plus 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 in the freestyle to hold her spot. So what I thought was exciting was right out after the Grand Prix, Germany held the first spot, Great Britain was second, USA was third, and the Netherlands was fourth, very close behind USA. But the United States riders really landed the bronze medal, again with Laura leading with her beautiful Grand Prix special and freestyle. So the placings remained the same for the team medal after the Grand Prix special. And this part I thought was very interesting. We know the Germans won the gold, and it was 81.936. Great Britain was the silver with 78.595. There was only 3.341 difference between those two scores. Now, USA was bronze with 76.667. We were only 1.928 behind the silver medal in Great Britain, so who won the gold in 2012. So we've made a significant difference in the quality of what our team is producing now and our country's producing. And then, of course, the Netherlands were behind us in the fourth place. As far as the freestyle day. Now, did you all see the freestyle day?
Oh, it was great.
Yes,
it
of
was
course.
great.
we had it on at the barn. There was a laptop at the barn that we have Wi-Fi at the barn, so I was riding and watching and watching and riding.
Yeah,
We were not that productive
it was
that day. I'm going to be real. We were really mostly watching. It was fantastic, and that's fine.
Yeah, it was. I mean, just all the different choreographies and the choices of music and the synchronization of all of it. It was really the best Olympic, I think, freestyle that I have ever watched. But with Vallegro and Charlotte, here she went right in there and she clinched a second gold medal after doing the whole process and also beat her own record in London in the freestyle by getting a 93.857. And she's such a pure performer. She just uses superlatives to describe the heart and bravery of Vallegro. His one tempies in the freestyle were extraordinarily ground covering. And she said that she felt the pressure and expectation and felt unusually nervous going into the arena. And she said the day before, she visited Rio de Janeiro's famous Christ the Redeemer statue. And she said, I got on my hands and knees and prayed. So maybe that helped too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it did. She was great. And just, you could see when she finished, it was just such a pure emotion of, we've all had that horse that's been special to us and retired that horse. And certainly always that bond is great, but you could see it in her face and just how proud she was and of Blueberry and just how cool. It was just a neat moment, I think, for the sport. And they are just such a team. And I think they are such an example. And same with Laura Graves, just you look at them and how they are and their relationship with their horse. And it's truly what we're after. And I think it was just a great reminder for all of us. And this is here on the Olympic stage, as big as it gets. And her partner, because I also read some follow-up, and she said, she was so nervous around the ring, but he just kind of grabbed her and said, come on, let's do this. And it was just sweet. It was really sweet and really, I teared up. I'm not going to lie, when she came out of the ring. It was a neat experience to watch for sure.
It really was. And I remember after London when she won 2012 and she came out and she was waiting for the score and she was crying, but she was really sobbing after this one because it's been a long run here now. So it was beautiful to see. And she really deserved that. She really deserved this course she got, and she really deserved to win that place. And I love when she said, he's so easy to ride now. I just have to think it and he does it. And that's what it looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we had Isabel Verip come in. And as we know, she's the most medaled rider in dressage history. Olympic gold medals. Not Olympic medals, rather, 6 gold. And that Oldenburg mare, as we know, she'd only been riding her for 9 months because her other horse had a soundness issue. So she is such a determined person, and she's just amazing. I mean, she's simply amazing. There's no one who compares with what she's done time after time, going in there to win more medals than anyone else. So she not only held up her spot, but she won the silver medal. And I watched her on the screen when she came out, and she looked up and she just sort of totally, as a veteran, looked and said, "Oh, okay, well, it'll be silver. That's fine."
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. I'm not going to lie. I'd be like, okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then Christina coming with Desperado to win the bronze and just squeezing in ahead of Laura, because Laura truly, it was spine tingling to watch Laura's ride. I just thought it was pure grace and beauty. And I know I'm American, so I'm prejudiced, but a lot of my Germans and Dutch friends have called to congratulate our team and all of that, and really felt the same way. It was really a very heroic ride. So our whole team really worked so beautifully as a team. It's so exciting to be on the podium. Stefan said he was sobbing too after all these years. And I must say that the supporters, the horse owners, the fans, the supporters, the grooms, I got to know very, very well in Rotterdam. And the whole experience, there wasn't one glitch anywhere. I can say, as chair of this year's selectors, there wasn't one glitch anywhere with a person, a horse, an owner. It was all an extraordinary experience, I think, for everybody involved.
That's so cool. That's such a, and you could really see that just even being, on the sidelines and on Facebook with everyone, just the experience and how really they worked as a team. I think that was so evident with this team and Team Believe, and you could only catch the spirit with them, which was really extraordinary. And, I hope it looks like they took a little time off and had some fun, which I know they needed it. And so Kathy, kind of what's next? What's sort of the next phase if anybody's gone there? I know there was such a big push for the Olympics. Is there sort of a next stage, or is everyone going to rest a little bit before the Florida season for next year?
I think they've been doing this for a long time. I was teaching a clinic back in Hawaii when Compiègne was coming up, and we had conference calls from there. And I thought it'd be one conference call, and it ended up being 8 conference calls that day, because there's so much preparation for going in and what's going to happen with each decision that we make. And so they've been at this a long time to come to this. And so I think that they're pretty much going to rest themselves and the horses, because, well, the riders will ride their other horses, but it's time for the Olympic horses to take a break. And then I think all these riders, well, Casey will probably stay out in California. Maybe she'll come down to Florida. And she certainly is an upcoming extraordinary combination with Dublet, and we have great hopes for her in the future with him. And also we have a number of other young riders coming along and very good horses. We have a pretty good depth of horses, so it's not just, that's what the Europeans kept saying. Well, is this it, or do you have a lot more? We said we have quite a few more coming along.
Yeah.
But so that's our hope. We know we're going to continue with our strategy. Our pipeline, as you know, has been developed from lead line on up to the Olympics. It's big help that we won the Nations Cup internationally. The Germans won at Aachen, and the Netherlands did at Rotterdam, but we won internationally the whole Nations Cup. And so a lot of work has gone into all this, and I just see us on the rise and ongoing, and we're all grateful for this enormous achievement and look forward to the future.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so exciting to be part of it. Sorry, Phil. Good luck in Canada.
But no, it's been such a fun thing to watch, and really, just we have our fingers and toes crossed, and love the system that's been developed. So, well, Kathy, thank you so much for coming back on the show, and God willing that in 4 years we're all back here again and going over the next Olympics in Tokyo. So, Kathy, how can our listeners find you online?
I have a website, and I also have a Facebook page, so people can refer to those to contact me or to know what different things I'm doing next.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Kathy.
Thank you very much, all of you in this wonderful radio station. And I really appreciate getting to speak with you all again, Phil and Reese and Glenn. Thank you very much.
This week's dressage training tip is brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, home of the shoulder relief girth at TotalSaddleFit.com.
Well, this evening, I am so happy to have Janet Foy, USEF S Judge, FEI 4-star judge. She's a rider, she's a trainer, she's a clinician, and an author of some great books. Janet, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me again. I always enjoy being on your show and working with your listeners.
We love it. Well, that's why we had you back, because we gave you which you're incredibly capable of, going through for our final through the level segments, the Grand Prix, and next week will be the Grand Prix special. So this is also, Janet, kind of our Olympic wrap-up show. So hopefully our listeners got to see some of the Grand Prix and the special last week during the Olympic Games. But tonight we're going to talk about the Grand Prix, and if you don't mind, let's get started. What are you looking for? Yeah, when we start the Grand Prix.
Okay. Well, the Grand Prix is the pinnacle of our sport, and I have to say the quality and the number of 80% and 75% and over at the Olympic Games was just incredible, and it was such a high level of sport that I think we can be very, very proud of where our sport has gone, and hopefully the Olympics will keep us there. There's always that discussion, but I think that the level that the Olympic Committee saw and the spectators saw this year should go a long way toward keeping us in the Olympics, because it was just incredible. It was amazing. I think oftentimes here in this country anyway, the goal for people is not even thinking of the Grand Prix and riding it in a way that they would consider themselves being judged on the same level as Charlotte or Laura or Stefan. The idea for them is more, well, I'm going to try to squeak in and get my 60% so I can get my gold medal. And certainly 30 years ago, if you look at the scores, 60% was very hard to achieve in Grand Prix, and a lot of things have changed. Judging methodology, for one. Back in the old days, one mistake was a 4. Now you're given credit for what happened before and after the mistake. Again, back in the old days, most of the top Olympic horses were getting 6s on gates, and now that is also getting up to the 8s and the 9s. With the modern horse and the really long forelegs, if you look at videos from 30 years ago of even Reiner Klimke and Karen Rabine, some of the top horses, if you look at their half passes, they don't have the lift and the reach and the expression in the shoulders that the modern horses have with the long forelegs. So you can certainly see why the scores are going up and why there's a lot of 9s and 10s nowadays, and the changes and the passage and the piaffe and the half passes. The quality has really changed, along with a little bit the style of riding and certainly the breeding of the horse. So that's been really, really exciting. And I think it's, for me, important that everybody looks at the whole picture first and then thinks about the small details. There are so many dressage critics that worry about, oh, well, the neck's a little shorter, the pole's a little lower, the mouth was open sometimes, rather than looking at, the whole picture, the activity of the hind legs, the rhythm, the cadence of the horse. And sometimes those little moments happen, where the neck gets shorter, the mouth opens, and it may not be a pervasive problem that happens all the time. And of course, with the video and the internet, little clips of bad moments get spread around as the example for what's happening all the time. And, that isn't true. And it's unfortunate and it's too bad, but it's one of the facts of modern life that we have the internet for good and for bad. So for me, I think probably most any 6-moving horse can be a Prix St. George horse. Then after you start talking about piaffe, passage, and the one-time changes, those really are the 3 movements that make up a Grand Prix horse. And if the horse is missing one of those movements, then in my opinion, he's not a Grand Prix horse. Even though I happen to judge a lot of horses that people think, oh, well, my horse doesn't do that, but I'm going to go show Grand Prix anyway. If they want to do that, that's fine, but they have to understand that as a judge, I have to mark that accordingly. And it's a missing piece in the training. So it takes years, I would say, from my experience, depending on the horse, the athletic ability, of course, the mind. Some horses have a little bit more trainable mind than others. But let's say you have a 7-moving horse with a fairly trainable mind and you're able to start at 4 years old. I would say if you have the right instruction and experience, the horse should be ready to do its first Grand Prix at 9, 10 years old. And then you have the problem of, okay, the horse takes a year for him to learn the test and get strong enough to really do the test in a way that you're going to get a decent score. Struggling through a Grand Prix is usually not the best way to go. And if you're not an experienced rider, then it's going to take you a year to learn to ride the test. I mean, I think back to the first time I rode Grand Prix, the whole test, and it was like, oh my gosh. And Reese, I know you can identify with
Yeah,
that.
it's like you're like, what just happened? I was on a roller coaster and I don't even know what happened.
Well,
yeah.
You train this movement, and then you train this movement, then you have a little break, and then you do a couple moves. And, that test, you have at the most 1 corner to get your ducks in a row before the next thing happens.
And then you had a mistake, so then you missed the corner, and then you're really in trouble. So
I know, and it just snowballs. It's truly, and I don't think people realize what a huge, incredible jump it is from St. George. I mean, it is like a total alien world, and I'm thrilled that the FEI has put this intermediate A and B in with Intermediate 2 and now called it the Medium Tour. It's a much friendlier, shall we say, progression to go from the St. George I-1 into the Medium Tour, where there's fewer of the 1 times, fewer of the 2 times, fewer steps in the piaffe. You can travel more forward. Those things just make so much more sense.
Yeah.
They really do. So,
and do make the level of difficulty
helpful.
Yeah, big time.
That's super, super helpful. So, anyway, I have to say, too, this under 25. I just came back from Europe. I was lucky enough to be appointed by the FEI to do the very first European Championships for the under 25, and we had 44 riders, which was way more than they thought they would have from all over Europe. And I have never seen anything like that. Those kids are hardened competitors. I mean, take no prisoners. Those Germans, the Dutch team, there were some fabulous Swedish riders, Danish riders. Spain had some great rides. And I tell you what, we have a long way to go in this country as far as taking our young riders and our juniors and pushing them up to that next level and getting the experience. It just, it was a real eye-opener as far as, wow, we've come a long way, baby, but we need more. So I guess, thinking if you're going to do it, if you want to do it, play with the movements, find a trainer who's experienced, because experimenting is never a good thing, because if the horse gets scared and the horse gets nervous about the piaffe, he's never going to learn it. And the same thing with the one-time changes. I think you have to have amazing timing to get those ones, because if you think, you're too late with your aids. So, I don't know. I still highly, highly recommend schoolmasters if possible. And I know there's quite a few, because we're looking for one for a student now. There's quite a few very nice 16, 17-year-old Grand Prix schoolmasters for, they're expensive, but they're not out of this world, 50, 60,000. And if you can afford to do that, boy, you're going to come a long way faster, learning from a horse that can teach you, what the buttons mean.
Absolutely. And it's so true, because it is such a different world. So Janet, with the test, so tell us a little bit, you come in, you go down the center line. Can you kind of help us go through the test a little bit, and what you're thinking as a judge and you're looking for as the rider's going through?
Okay, so in the entry you come in, we're looking for a lovely uphill canter, straightness, and a good transition to a square halt. We'd like to see a little pirouette canter so the horse settles softly into the halt, carries his neck, stands, of course, the required 3 seconds, and then the trot for a high score has to come out of that halt like, whoa, that's incredible. Not walking, it's Grand Prix. We pretty much have been nice and, a little forgiving up till this point, but at this point, that's it. We're done. It's gotta look.
Yes,
Expectations
yep.
are up.
It's painful at first. Yes, very painful.
Exactly. And then, of course, we think it's a Grand Prix horse, so they should, of course, go into the corner in preparation for the extension. And again, we like to see a horse that's uphill. We'd like to see more freedom in the trot and more ground cover. And then we'd like to see a transition at the end as well on the other diagonal back to collect a trot. And we see quite a few trots that are downhill still and running, where the hind legs are not engaged. And I have to say that probably very, very few tens are given internationally an extended trot. It just seems to be something that the horses are uphill, but the amount of ground cover is not as much as we'd need to see for a 10. So I think we saw a couple of 9s from the judges on some of the extensions at the Olympics, but again, that's not a very place where lots of horses get 10s. And then we have the 2 half passes, which, again, it's a good idea to use your corner to set your horse up. And we see a lot of corner cutting and cheating, so that, if you start on the quarter line, then it's really cheating because you're not doing the requirement. I would say probably the comment that I use the most is needs more bend. For some reason, bending seems to have gone a bit out of style. And then, just as you're thinking that, here comes Isabel Worth, and she just kills it, right? It's like, okay, good. There is Bend. Bend is alive and well. So I think probably still we talk about horses being equally supple both sides in a Grand Prix. That would be the ideal. But I still think very few horses get a 10 and a 10. Usually it's a 9 and a 10. One side is still just a tiny bit better than the other side. So then we have the new halt and rein back that came in the new test cycle. And it's right there at C and, in front of the 3 judges there, so you can't hide much. And again, the halt should be square. The horse should carry the neck. Would like to see a soft transition on the hind legs, not the mouth open and the horse hanging in the bridle. In the rein back, the halt should be settled. There's not a 3-second rule except for the halts on center line, the entry and the finish halt. So think of your rein back halt as settled. And then the steps should be in diagonal pairs with the horse staying in self-carriage with the shoulders up in a nice contact. And 5 steps, and then directly into another lovely collected trot for the next extension, which then comes into the first passage that we see. And the passage is the highest, most cadenced trot, and we'd like to see not just the lift in the front legs and the shoulders, which with the more modern horses, they're very easy to do, but that the hind legs stay engaged and in front of the tail, and also that they are lifting and coming off the ground. The hoof print, the hoof at maybe the middle of the hind cannon. So dragging toes is a problem. Rhythm errors, you see some horses double tapping. Sometimes you see horses taking uneven strides. One hind leg would be a little bit longer than short, long, short, long, short. You don't see as many mistakes with the front legs with the rhythm. So usually you're looking a little more at the hind legs and making sure there's no rhythm errors. And then the piaffe, we do count.
Sorry, I just want to jump in for a second because I think that's true in the passage and the piaffe, but how much are you watching the back legs in the extended trots as well? Because, I mean, we've seen a lot of horses that lift very high in the front end, and, for a 10, what are we looking for behind?
Well, again, if the hind legs and the extension are not loaded equally, you're going to see also maybe some problems with the front legs, that the front legs won't be level. And you might not even see it in the hind legs, but you'll see one front leg coming higher than the other one. So the extensions, you can see rhythm errors front or behind. And I think, again, the horse should stay uphill, and ideally the horse takes the weight on the hind legs, and then the hind legs push the horse forward to where the toe is pointed with the front leg. We see a lot of, and I guess that score is going to be around in the 7 range when you see a tiny bit more freedom in the trot, in an extension, and it stays uphill, but you don't see a lot of ground cover. The ground cover is a little bit limited. So, that's going to be in the 7-ish range.
Super.
Thanks. Yeah, perfect. So I think we're coming to the first piaffe in the test here.
Right. So we have to look a little bit at the piaffe is the quickest tempo. If we think of all the different trots, they're basically the same rhythm, and we use the word rhythm and tempo differently because tempo is the repetition of the rhythm. So piaffe is the quickest tempo of the trot rhythm, and the passage is the slowest. So they have to go from the slowest to the quickest without losing that diagonal pair. And they also should take a little bit more weight. In the piaffe, you should see the croup lower. You do see horses, there's a discussion with Rembrandt and also a little bit Verdati's, their technique. They were very active. They never missed a beat. The piaffe was pretty much on the spot, but the discussion was always, could they take more weight? And, we agree, but there's still high quality when the activity is there and they're staying on the spot for the required number of steps. And it's important that the judge counts. And I have to say, we give you a little bit of leeway because we're not exactly sure where you think you started, but With the really top riders, you can see it. It's like boom, and so we don't want you to escape out of it and do too few steps. You need to stay there, the required number of steps. And again, with the rhythm staying diagonal pairs, the idea a little bit is the horse jumps from one loaded hind leg to the other. I think Charlotte's was quite good in the special. I think we saw some wonderful piaffe from the German horses. And, of course, Stefan and Leglos always, that's one of their specialties is the piaffe and passage. So you can really clearly see the ones that are going to be in the 8s and aboves, and then the ones who are having some rhythm mistakes or they lose the rhythm in or out in that transition, and then the scores are going to go down a little bit there. And then into the next passage, and then into extended walk. And extended walk, David Strickland had a really interesting pie chart that he was doing a graph, plotting all the scores. And of course, the rounder the pie was, the better it was. If you looked at Charlotte's pie, most everything was between 8 and 10, except the 2 walks, and they were the only 2 pieces that went down to the 7.5 range. And I think, you ask the horse to be, right there on your aids and be quick and wonderful, and then boom, now you're supposed to relax and really be supple through your back and free through the shoulder and show a lot of overstep. And I think that's difficult for a Grand Prix horse. And the collected walk's even more difficult because they know the passage is coming on the other side of the short end. So for me personally, I have never given a 10 on a collected walk. And I've tried to use the scale a little bit more and say, okay, I should, say, oh, that could be an 8. And so I've been trying to make that scale a little bit of a broader range and push that up. But again, I just think the requirements and what we're doing with the horse, it's difficult mentally for them to be super relaxed and then bang, hit that transition to passage, which has to be, crisp.
And you're right down there by the judge. Yeah, because you're right down with the judge, so there's no cheating. You're right there. You can't. That's a tough one.
You can't even cluck or anything.
No. No, you can't do anything.
I know.
It's tough.
Like,
it's a tough one.
Yeah. But that's a tough transition. And I have to say that usually we see a stride or two of trot before we actually, get the passage developed. Not with the top horses, but that's a tricky transition to really go from that collected walk to boom. Let's get up here and get those hind legs working. So then we finish with the piaffe passage serpentine, and then I think if that's not hard enough, you have to do the canter depart from the passage, and that's a tricky movement as well. You see a lot of horses get a little tense, a little tight in that particular transition, and that takes a bit of skill and tact to train and ride as well. So then you're just sort of like thinking you're going to die and you need oxygen. and oh my God, there can't be more. And then you get into canter hell. And I do have to say, in the old Grand Prix, Reese, which you and I rode, we had to immediately go into canter into the zigzag.
Yes.
And the zigzag, back when I was riding Grand Prix, had another 6, half that. And it was, I think someone finally said, has anybody in the world ever given a 10 on this movement? And I think finally nobody in the world had ever done it. And so the thinking was then, oh gosh, well then it must be too hard.
It's already hard enough.
It was like, pretty much.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. It was a miracle to me. Like Carol Lavelle was gifted with his big canner could do that movement. I was just in awe of her. Like, how did she do that? That was so amazing. But it's a really, really tricky movement. But now it's a little friendlier because from the canner, you go into the 2 tempies and then into your extended canner. So you have a little bit of leeway there before you start the zigzag. And the 2 tempies we want to see again, very uphill for an 8 and above. They should really cover ground. The changes should be written in your least collective of your collected canners. And you should be able to place them so that the middle change is around the earth. If they're uphill but need more end straight, but need more ground cover, you're going to be in the 7.5 range. If they're swinging and downhill, it's going to drop you down to the 6 range. And then your deductions come off of the quality score. And then, of course, the number of deductions will bring the score down depending on how many you have, counting mistakes or late front, late behind. So, the judges are pretty busy there. They don't want the scribes to talk at that point because I don't know. I have 2 hands. So on one hand, I count the counting mistakes, and on the other hand, I count the mistake that the changes are late. And then it's just how my brain works.
That's actually a really good tip. That's actually a pretty good tip. I like that, Janet. That's a really good idea. I've never done it that way, but that's a fantastic way to do it as you're going through. I like that.
Yeah, well, it keeps my brain working. So otherwise, and then I can actually put in the comments whether it was a counting mistake or it was a change late in front or behind or a combination of both. So I feel like then I can give the writer a little bit more information. That's helpful.
Awesome.
The extended canner, usually we see the extension. And then, again, if it's uphill and going somewhere in straight, it'll be in the 7 range. You got to have some risk, no pain, no gain. So you got to have some risk if you want an 8 or above. You have to, pretend you're maybe an event rider instead of a dressage rider and go for it. And then the transition, we don't see very many good transitions. We need to see even just about the quarter line, the transition back to collection, and then the horse goes a little more forward for the change. And the change should be the first stride. The front leg should hit the rail. So the change will still be on the diagonal line and won't be in the corner. And I often have to write that comment that the riders are putting the transition and the change at the wrong place, the wrong location.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we have the dreaded zigzag. And again, most of the time, and I have this argument with Robert, and I say, Robert, fine. If it's Isabel or Charlotte or Stefan or Laura, yes, the judge can start counting 1 because they know exactly where the horse starts. But trust me, if you're in, outer Midwest or, you aren't really going to know where that first half started. So I usually don't start counting until the flying change for the second half pass, and then I do my count from there. And we'd like to see exactly the same. If the middle change should be crossing center line, so it should be placed equally on either side of center line. And I think a lot of people lose points there because they let the horse go too much sideways in the direction the horse is able to go more sideways, and they need to think about that because then the other direction is always a problem, and they never, get back, and it becomes a little bit disorganized. And I think this is, again, a very hard movement to control. To say nothing of now, our little lambs think they know the test, and they know this movement, and they don't need us, and they certainly can do this better if we just left them alone. So I think practicing this on centerline is the worst thing you can do. I think you need to use the rail and rail to quarter line, any place other than centerline, because they get just so darn smart. And then, of course, they want to take control, and then it's very, very difficult. So anyway, I think that's a tough movement. But to me, it's also maybe the pinnacle of when we talk about engagement, we all talk about the hind legs, but we also need to talk about the lightness and mobility of the shoulders. And I think this movement, if it's done really, really well, shows the engagement as well as the rider's ability to move the shoulders quickly from one side to the other without the horse falling sideways in the direction of the shoulders. You know, that's still a very uphill feeling rather than a sideways kind of feeling, if that makes sense. So a beautiful zigzag. That just impresses the heck out of me, I have to say. I love to see that. And you just, of course, don't see a lot of ones that are done, super, super well, that they can get the count, they can center it, the horse bends equally both ways, and then for really top score, actually has a lot of lateral reach in each half pass. So I remember sitting in the stands during WEG in Kentucky watching the warm-up, and Edward Gall was our totalist, and they were just schooling. He came down center line and did a zigzag, and I was sitting with Endel Otts, and I looked over and I said, that is the best one I've ever seen in my life. That was incredible. I mean, it was like, wow. Oh my gosh, there's a 10. And I think he did get a 10 later on in the competition, but he was good at that. And that horse was very good at that movement. And that's a hard one. Okay, now we've done that. What do we do next? The ones?
Yes. The ones.
The one tempies. Yes. So now, hopefully your horse has been perfectly on the eighth for your zigzag, because now the ones come up. And again, we want to see ground cover, uphill, forward. Equal, now you can really see the equal separation of the hind legs. And oftentimes you see one hind leg takes a little bit bigger stride, and then the change the other direction's a little bit shorter. So, again, you shouldn't blink. You got to keep your eyes open the whole time, because there's so many things that could happen. And since we usually don't have a JSP to help us if we make a mistake, we have to really pay attention for those. And then, okay, now this I think is the last insult, the pirouettes are at the very end. So, I know, it's like, oh my gosh, couldn't they have put those in there a little bit sooner, right? So you're sitting right there on center line. And for a 10, you've got to approach those pirouettes in shoulder 4. And you see a variety of haunches in. In other words, they put the haunches on the center line and let the shoulders fall over. But for the highest scores, you've got to have a shoulder 4. And then control, I would say, for me, the canter pirouette is all about control, that the rider is controlling every single step. That the horse is still thinking forward and isn't spinning, and yet the rider has control of the turning and the size. And then, of course, the finish, you see a lot of mistakes where the horse tries to leave too soon. You see them lose the lead behind. There's a variety of different things. The other thing I see a lot of is I see riders doing those to the horse without having any bending, and they do need to have some bend in the position of the turn. So, that also is something that judges are looking at. So we're looking at quite a lot. And we count the steps. We're very picky about that. If it takes too long to get the horse turned around, then we don't think the shoulders are mobile enough. And if the horse is too quick, then we don't think the horse is secure enough on the hind legs. So counting is important. And I think the riders need to learn how to count their strides as well. because I don't think some of them think about that, and it is important. And then we turn, and we're like, oh, we have flying change, and we have another pirouette right up there by the judge, and then we get to turn, then finally back to trot. Oh, we're almost done. Another extension, and then finally down center line, and another passage, piaffe, passage tour. And this can be interesting for the judge at sea because they've not really seen the piaffe or passage straight on. They've seen it sort of in a silhouette. And if you're on the side at B or E, now you're seeing a silhouette, and the other tour, you see more the front or the hind legs. So it can be very interesting from the front. Oftentimes, the horse rocks on the shoulders because they don't want to carry enough weight, and that's something you didn't see from the other view. So you have to judge what you see. You can't remember what you saw before, and if it looks worse, you go down. If it looks better, you go up, and you figure the other judges are there doing their jobs, and it'll all work out. So the final halt, this halt has to be from passage into halt. Oftentimes you see the rider lose passage, or they halt too soon because they know they're going to lose passage. And this also has to be for 3 seconds. So, phew, that was
And that final one is you just take a deep breath going down that center line and like, okay, come on. This is where your face really
I know,
pays
and you get to X, and the horse is like, oh, maybe I'll stop here. And you have to go, no, come on, keep going. Yeah, it's tough. And, I have to say, we've talked about the horse this whole time, but really, to ride Grand Prix, the rider has to be fit.
Yeah.
There is, there's just no other way. There's nothing to get around this. But the rider has to be an athlete now and has to be fit enough to ride this test and help the horse. And it takes a lot of strength, core strength and body control to be able to get the horse through the test in a nice way. And of course, you are supposed to be sitting there looking like you're not doing anything, and really you're about ready to bust a gut. But, it's hard to be that elegant and look like you're making it easy. And but I tell you, those riders that we saw in the top 10, they are fit. I know they don't just ride horses. They go to the gym. They do weight. They do a lot of other cross training to help their level of strength. So, horse and rider are both athletes, and we have to remember that. It's not so hugely important at first level, but at Grand Prix, it is absolutely important.
Absolutely. Well, Janet, thank you so much. I learned stuff. Philip and I were chatting on the Skype, and it's like, wow, I didn't know about the 3-second rule. This is great. And it's so true. And it's so fun to watch it. And if you ever get a chance to ride it, it only makes you want to ride it more because it's so hard to master.
It really is.
Well, Janet, thank you so much. And also, Janet is the author of Dressage for the Not So Perfect Horse and Dressage Question and Answer. Janet, how do we find the books, and how do we ask some questions online if we want to get a hold of you?
The books are available either on Amazon or through the publisher, which is Trafalgar Press. And Trafalgar has a website, and they have a place that you can click and ask me questions, and I'm happy to answer them.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Janet.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys. Have a great evening.
We're going to talk about the new girth that Justin has. And Phil and I have both tried this girth, and it's fantastic. So, Phil, take it away.
I've had it. It's called, for quite a bit, it's called the Stretch Tech Shoulder Relief Girth. It has all the same awesome qualities and features of the shoulder relief girth, only that this one has a triangular elastic center that allows the horse's chest to expand, and it makes a softer contact with the horse's sternum. So it's taken all the qualities of that nice shoulder relief girth and enhanced them even further, and made an awesome girth to allow your horse to breathe a little better. It fits awesome. It allows the shoulder freedom that we've talked about puts your saddle in the exact right place where you want it to stay. I like to test things out to see if they, stand up to the rigorous training schedule, work schedule of the horses that we have. And I've used it almost every day, and it's been a really great girth. I think it's even better than the shoulder relief girth because it's got more liners. You have options. What you want to be on against the horse. So I have the leather one, and what I've really been liking is the neoprene liner, which is easy. You can take it off, hose it down, or put it in the wash or whatever, and it's been extremely durable, and it fit forms to the horse. Okay, well, that was a pretty good show, Reese. Now the Olympics is over. It's kind of
I
sad,
know.
but we
But we
wanted
have
to bring
lots
up
of
something about you. You won a grant through the USEF, or was it USDF? You can tell us
actually.
about your grant.
Sure, yeah. No, it was through the Dressage Foundation,
Oh,
which
okay.
is
I get confused all the different organizations.
yes, it's true. It was great. It was it's for the FEI instructor certification program, and I can't thank them enough. They have been so supportive, and I do really want to tell people about the foundation. It's a great. It's a foundation. They have lots of different grants for different riders. This was one specifically for people going for the FEI certification. So I don't know if anybody else applied, and we were talking a little bit off air. You never know with the grants. I think people get intimidated and they don't apply, or they don't take the time to. There's a process to do it, but it's not terrible. And it was really. I'm just very thankful. That's an expensive program to go through, and I think a lot of trainers. The financial part's limiting for them. So this kind of takes that all out for me, and I can go to extra workshops. We hosted one here at the farm. So very, very thankful to the Dressage Foundation. They have the Two Tempe Challenge this year, where you can go on and you basically pledge how many two-time changes you can do, and make a game out of it, which is cool. So it's a great foundation. I encourage everybody to look on their website and to get involved with it for donating, because they donate to all kinds of riders, not just professional riders, but they donate all the way to kids and adult amateurs and people who want to go to conventions. So it's a really cool foundation, and I thank them very much for the help, and will be great in furthering my teaching career. So
Awesome.
it's great.
Congratulations. That's wonderful.
Thanks. Thank you.
I also wanted to say thank you to our listeners. We've got a couple of Facebook questions and emails that we've got to get to in the when we come back in September. So don't worry, we're getting to them. We'll use them for our tip segment, and we thank you very much for sending those in. Keep sending them in, because we always need content and things to talk about on the show. So that's been great from our listeners sending those things in. So
Thank you.
yeah. So that's about it. You can find our show notes and links to today's guests on the website at dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search the Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. Reese's website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and her email is reese@horseradionetwork.com. The best way to find me on the internet is through Facebook, or my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week for allowing us to put on a great show. And don't forget to check out all the other awesome shows, including the eventing show on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we will talk to you in September.